The night Karen called 911 on me. I was on the porch with a lukewarm cup of coffee, watching the last pink rinse out over the south pasture. Wind smelled like hay and rain. When the sirens turned off County Road 7 and crawled up my gravel drive, something in me pulled tight like a fence wire overstretched. "Evening, sir," Deputy Miller said, stepping from the cruiser. "Good man used to coach Little League with me." Two more cruisers rolled in behind him, headlights pulling our shadows long across the porch. "We got a call about a domestic situation." Domestic. I glanced at my wife, Anne, standing in the doorway with our framed deed clutched to her chest. Just us and a stubborn porch light. Miller shifted his hat and looked toward the road. An SUV idled there, window down. Carnow HOA President Hare sprayed into a helmet, lips thin as fishing line, phone in her hand like a badge. "That man is refusing to vacate," she announced. "He's aggressive. He's standing his ground." I let out a short laugh that didn't sound like me. "Standing my ground? I'm standing on my porch." "Sir," Miller said gently, "we're going to check this out." Neighbors slowed on the county road. That's how small towns work. News outruns weather. Heat crept up my neck. I put this place together post by post with my father. Watched my boy take his first steps on that rattly grass. Set my dad's ashes under the oak on the west fence when the VA folded his flag into my hands. This isn't just property. It's the last place that makes sense. Anne slid the frame into my palm. Cool glass. Old ink. The bones of our clam eats and bounds in my granddad's handwriting. I passed it to Miller. Karen finally said the quiet part out loud. "My son's moving back. He needs this ranch. We're consolidating the community under a new HOA interpretation. Families with multiple lots must surrender excess land for uniform residency." Uniform. "What?" I asked. Miller frowned. "Ma'am, this is a private residence. What's the emergency?" "The emergency," Karen snapped, "is that he's trespassing on what will imminently be our property." The board voted to reassign lots. We held a special meeting. It's official. Now the second cruiser's door opened. A young deputy, braced like trouble, was already here. The porch light buzzed and flickered, sharpening everyone's edges. I kept my voice even. "Deputy, this ranch predates the HOA. Our deeds carved out of the original. Covenant grandfathered when the developer went bankrupt. In '92, the HOA can't reassign what it doesn't own." Karen's nails ticked against her phone. "We have a new legal opinion." "I have 30 years of taxes," I said. "Every wire on that fence is mine." A Miller studied the deed by his dashlight. "This looks valid," he told the rookie. Then to Karen, "Ma'am, 911 is for emergencies, not property disputes. It can't be used to enforce HOA decisions." "Then remove him," she said, pointing like I was a raccoon in her cans. "He's defiant." My father's voice moved through me, gravel and truth. "Courtesy ain't the same as surrender." I stepped off the porch, letting my boots grind the gravel loud enough to count. "Karen, that special meeting wasn't noticed to me. You don't have jurisdiction. Your son's needs aren't my legal problem." Her smile never touched her eyes. "We'll see about that." The sirens were quiet now, but their red wash still bled over the oak, the rusty windmill, the old cattle gate. Anne's hand found mine. My pulse leveled. Miller returned the deed. "For tonight," he said, "nobody's going anywhere. Ma'am, don't call 911 for this again. If you have a case, file civil." Karen huffed, spun gravel against my fence, and sped off. The cruisers eased out one by one. When their lights vanished, it was just wind and the porch light ticking as it cooled. "She won't stop." Anne whispered against my shoulder. "I know," I said, eyes on the oak where my father rests. "Neither will I." That night I spread every scrap that ties my name to this land across the kitchen table, tax receipts with coffee stains, survey maps, Granddad's letters to the county clerk. I wrote out what I remembered about the developer, the bankruptcy, the carve-out. Coyotes tested their voices down by the creek. One thought circled back like a hawk. You can love your neighbor and still protect your home. By morning, I had a plan beginning at the county quarters office an ending at an HOA meeting no one would forget. I took one last look at the porch, at the mug, and sat by the door. At the folded flag with my father's careful creases. I won't let them take this, I told him, quiet and plain. And I drove to town. The county recorder's office smells like dust and lemon cleaner, exactly how history should. Ms. Ramirez was behind the glass, glasses on a chain, smile quick as a wink. She remembered my dad and the peach cobbler he brought after we settled a fence line argument years back. "What brings you in so early, honey?" she asked. "Somebody's trying to rewrite my life," I said. Thought I'd start with the original draft. Pulled ledgers, spun microfiche, checked the new digital scans. Thick, looping handwriting from some long-gone developer mapped the subdivision where cattle once grazed. Then there it was, clean as daylight, the carve-out. Parcel existing ranch homestead retained under pre-development deed. Not subject to HOA governance except road maintenance contribution. I got a certified copy and tucked it in a folder like a kid being put to bed. "You're not the first to tangle with them," Ms. Ramirez said, lowering her voice, "but you might be the first with a carve-out this clean. Does clean beat loud?" I asked every day, she said. "You tell the sheriff about that 911 stunt?" "Last night. Miller handled it fair." "Good. Misusing 911 isn't small potatoes." I filed a notice of recorded rights at the courthouse. At the clerk's office, a baby-faced kid showed me how to request HOA special meeting minutes and official emails. I added Karen's name in careful block letters. By noon, I was home with a fat folder. Anne had the dining table cleared for battle. We spread out surveys, receipts, photos of fence lines older than half the board. The windmill's slow creak kept time with my breathing. "You think they'll back down?" she asked. "No," I said. "They'll double down." At 3 p.m., my phone dinged. HOA special meeting, agenda lot, reallocation compliance. 6 o'clock. Fast. I printed the notice, highlighted what wasn't legal, and built a second stack, a complaint to the State AG's Consumer Division, a letter to the HOA's directors and officers insurer, and a draft civil claim for tortious interference and harassment. "Go with calm," Anne said, hand on my shoulder. "Calm," I said, "and facts." I pulled on my good boots and my father's old belt buckle, the one nicked from hammering fence staples on a cold morning. The clubhouse lot was already crowded, the sun laying yellow stripes across the asphalt like painted caution. Inside, Karen sat center with a gavel. Her son slouched 2 rows back, eyes on his phone, wearing a permanent smirk. Board members flanked her like chess pieces. "We'll begin," Karen said. "First order, confirmation of emergency reallocation authority." "Point of order," I said, raising my hand. She sighed. "Yes, Thomas. Before you vote to take what you don't own, check your jurisdiction." I held up the certified carve-out. Parcel, a My Ranch pre-development deed. Recorded, clean. Not subject to HOA governance. A murmur rolled the back row forward. Mr. Hughes, older than pavement, tipped his cap to his wife. Karen didn't even glance at the paper. One bang of the gavel. "Your road contribution remains. And per our new landscape uniformity standard, your home sits on a common view corridor." "Show me that in the recorded covenant," I said. "It's in our updated guidelines." "Guidelines don't outrank deeds," I said. "And 911 isn't a property court." Her son's smirk twitched. Karen lifted a printed legal opinion. "Great," I said, laying my packet down. "Let counsel read the carve-out. Meanwhile, here's my notice to the State AG. Here's a draft letter to your D&O insurer. And since you escalated to emergency services, here's my request for the sheriff to review misuse of 911 for civil harassment." That got everyone's attention. Nobody wants dues going up because someone played power games. The treasurer, sweating through tweed, pushed his glasses up. "We, don't want exposure." "You mean consequences?" I said. Karen tried smiling neighborly. "Thomas, be reasonable. My son's in a tough spot. The market is impossible. We're thinking of the community." "I am too," I said quietly. "You're not the community. You're its steward. You forgot that." The room went still. Even the AC held its breath. From the back, Mrs. Jensen, widow, 72, stood with her cane. "Honey, I was at the meeting in '92, she said. "That carve-out was a promise." We all shook on it. "You don't break a promise in this town." Heads nodded. Pens stopped clicking. Karen's knuckles went white around the gavel. "Fine," she snapped. "We'll table. For now." The gavel hit too hard. The meeting scattered like quail. Neighbors squeezed my arm, told me they remembered my dad, whispered they were sorry it came to this. I kept my voice even and walked out under a sky cooling to purple. On the drive home, Anne took my hand. "You were steady," she said. "I was shaking inside," I admitted. "But steady wins." That night I barely slept. At 2 a.m., headlights drifted across the ceiling, slow and deliberate. A car idled by the road, then backed away. People who misuse power rarely stop at tablet. At sunrise, I called Miller. "Someone lingered out front last night. We'll patrol more," he said. "Also, we reviewed the 911 tape. DA's interested." I set the phone down in the quiet kitchen, light rippling through the curtains like lake water. You don't pick fights with neighbors, but you do defend your home. I topped off my coffee, opened my laptop, and set the last piece of the trap Karen built for herself. The public records email landed mid-morning, meeting notes, calendar invites, and a string of messages that made my stomach turn. Karen to the board. "Once we clarify the map, Parcel A becomes non-conforming. We can tighten road access and make residency unpleasant until he complies." Karen to her son. "Worst case, we ticket him for code stuff until he wears down." I read them twice. Then I quietly forwarded the lot to the DA and to the HOA's insurer, attaching my notes and the certified carve-out. No commentary needed. Words tell on themselves. By noon, a sheriff's Tahoe rolled up my drive, tires whispering over gravel. Miller climbed out with a folder and a face that said, "This wasn't just a courtesy call. Mind if we sit?" He asked. We sat at the porch table. Anne brought iced tea, carrying that steady strength like a hymn. "The DA's filing a misdemeanor for misuse of 911, Miller said. "They're reviewing harassment based on those emails. We'll serve papers this afternoon." My shoulders dropped for the first time in days. "Thank you." "If this were just a neighbor spat," he said, "we'd keep out. But emergency lines aren't leverage. Folks with real emergencies need that line clear." He left, and the ranch settled back to its own heartbeat, the hens clucking, the windmill sighing, a grain truck rattling the far road. At 3, my phone buzzed. "Open forum meeting compliance discussion." I went. Not for a fight. Truth breathes better in daylight. The clubhouse felt different, like the windows had finally been opened. The treasurer's tweed was damp. The secretary wore a ponytail instead of a helmet bun. Karen came late, without a gavel. Her son stayed gone. "We'll begin," the treasurer said, voice small. "There's been new information. We'd like to hear from Mr. Thomas." Stood with my papers at my side and talked like I would to a friend on my porch. "This isn't stubbornness," I said. "It's the line between community and control. This ranch is my family's story. I'll pay road dues and follow safety rules. But I won't surrender what isn't yours. We moved here for peace, pride, fairness. We can still have that if we keep our word." Murmurs rose, softer this time. Mrs. Jensen dabbed at her eyes. Mr. Hughes nodded so hard his cap wobbled. The treasurer cleared his throat. "We're voting to acknowledge the parcel a carve-out in our records. And we're accepting the president's resignation, effective immediately." The room hushed like the moment before summer rain. Color drained from Karen's face. For the first time, she looked less like a ruler and more like a person who'd run out of road. "You're pushing me out?" she said, voice sharp but frayed. "We're asking you to step down," the secretary said gently, "before this gets worse." Karen looked at me, and for a beat I saw anger, confusion, maybe even grief. Power's a lonely chair. Doesn't excuse what she did. Explains the hole she dug. She gathered her purse and left without a speech. The vote was quick. Minutes recorded. The carve-out recognized in language so clear, even a lawyer would nod. Papers shuffled. People drifted out into the kind of warm afternoon that makes you forgive almost anything. Except a broken promise. I didn't celebrate. I drove home with the windows down, letting cut grass and gasoline wash the day off. The oak stood where it's always stood, arms wide, bark furrowed. Leaves whispering an old joke you still love. Anne met me on the porch. We didn't say much. Didn't need to. I set the folded flag on the table. We sat and listened to the kind of quiet you only get in places where the land listens back. At sunset, I walked the fence line. Boots found every rut by memory. Coyotes called. Nothing answered. At the west fence, I paused at the small stone under the oak, touched it with 2 fingers. We kept it, Dad, I said. We kept our promise. Back on the porch, I poured 2 fingers of good bourbon into a mason jar and lifted it to the fading light. Not to winning, to steadiness. 2 neighbors who remember who they are. 2 sheriffs who know the difference between loud and lawful. Emails pinged later. Dodgers is filed. Insure a claim under review. And a note from a neighbor I barely knew. Thanks for standing up. We were scared to say anything, I wrote back. You don't have to swing to stand. Sometimes standing is enough. The porch light glowed steady, no more flicker. The house sighed the way houses do when they know their people are staying put. A patrol car drifted by on the county road, slow and easy, like the night itself was keeping watch. Before bed, I typed a note simple as a fence post. Sometimes you fight by being unmovable. Not angry. Not loud. Just rooted. And I slept. Sometimes standing up for what's right means standing steady when someone tries to shove you off your own porch. Courtesy is not surrender. Community is not control. Ever had an HOA cross a line like this? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. And I'm rooting for you, if you believe home and family are worth defending with calm. Lawful Backbone, hit subscribe, and let's stand together.